It's safe to say things are suboptimal right now. Outside of the massive costs of lives and livelihoods, it's also been a bit trash for someone that plays fighting games. That is my very dumb way of acknowledging that the real world ramifications of the pandemic we're experiencing right now are a touch more important than what's going on in a genre of game I'm far too invested in. But with that being said, let's talk about the FGC in this garbage timeline. I'm going to start with the bad because there's just a lot of it. Mainly, no offline events. This is obviously huge. As I spoke about in a previous video, fighting games can be quite a solitary hobby with them being 1v1. A way that FGC typically gets through this hurdle is with offline play. Not just the big events with prize pools, but the average local where you meet like-minded people and regularly test your ability. The lack of house sessions too has been absolutely brutal. For me personally, hanging out with friends in the process of practice is a lot of what keeps me motivated, and although you can replicate that online using Discord, it's just never going to be the same. There is also a monetary cost to this that event organisers and TOs have just had to firm. Cancelling events is a costly thing when deposits have already been paid, and not everywhere has the legislature in place to deal with that. Even refunding people is tedious work that has presented a ton of issues with things like PayPal locking people out of sending money en masse. This has directly impacted new games too. Granblue Versus, even though it's very much still alive, has regular online tournaments and an active community, has undoubtedly been shot in the foot by the fact it came out just as lockdown kicked in for most of the world. The game is frankly fantastic and accessible in a way that isn't detrimental to high level players, which I didn't think I'd ever see, but its ability to bring people together from various different fighters was unfortunately undermined by the fact that people couldn't see it at offline events. You're not watching the game and getting hype as a consequence of waiting for top 8 of a title you follow. You instead have to search for the game directly to view it, which requires a pre-existing interest of some kind that, especially in the West, a lot of people just didn't have. This is completely anecdotal, but for me and a bunch of people that were grinding the game, we just kinda lost passion due to the reality we're not going to be meeting up and testing ourselves offline anytime soon. What made that a lot worse was the netcode. We've all known for a long time that the inclusion of a rolled back netcode is incredibly important. Without it, big chunks of the world can't play against each other due to lag. But still, a lot of mainstream games either don't have it or have a half-functioning version of it. This is an issue that has become blindingly clear now that we're all trapped online. We all sit with the express knowledge that 1 in every 3 ranked games is going to be unplayable, and that is a brutal motivation killer for a lot of people. There is a lot more bad you can draw from this for individuals in our scene. The list is basically never ending, but believe it or not, some pretty cool stuff has happened too. Let's talk about online tournaments. They have been the primary source of drama for the last few months, which is understandable. An open bracket tournament being played through a bad netcode has an ungodly amount of variables to it and is always going to end with someone being salty. You don't know who you're playing against. It could be someone on a terrible Wi-Fi setup who's kicking their router every time you clap them with a counter hit, or it could be some gamer living 2 doors down with 8 fiber optic connections. But overall, online tournaments are a good thing. There are a lot of people unable to make it to local events for a myriad of reasons. Travel distance, cost, their work schedule, really anything. This gives them an avenue to play in a higher stakes environment where before it was impossible most of the time. It's also a slightly easier way for people to engage with the more formal competitive side of fighting games when starting out. I personally didn't have this issue, but I've seen people who are intimidated going to offline events on their own because they don't feel qualified to play, embarrassed that they might get bodied, which they probably will. Online tournaments can act as a gateway for new players. Through them, you can discover other people in your area and maybe go to offline locals together when things open up. It can also give a tiny impression of the pressure you feel when you're competing to help demystify that anxiety you might get when fighting a strong opponent as a scrub. The presence of online events has also had some good ramifications for content creators. One big thing about offline tournaments is due to the low prize pool, often people will lose out on more money via subs or donations than they can actually get for winning. With an online tournament, you can stream your matches to your audience or record them for later analysis without worrying if you're gonna make it far enough in the tournament to even be on stream. Even though I don't watch much Street Fighter 5, I will religiously tune in to Brian F playing NLBC to see if he will beat IDOM. Just the fact that there is more of a narrative than a couple of battle points can provide a ton of extra entertainment for your audience, and we get to follow him along in the entire journey. Although it's overall been a bad time for TOs, it's also been very interesting to see them mess around with different and creative formats. We've seen things like cross-community team tournaments in Japan where players from titles like Dragon Ball FighterZ and Multi-Blood all fought against each other in Grand Blue, which was just great. It was a new game at the time and no players were established yet, but I was instantly invested in seeing some familiar faces from the Guilty Gear team break skulls. Then we have more fun formats like Cynical's team tournament, where if you won a set versus another team, you actually got to replace one of your own teammates for one of the opponents, which is just like the best drama bait ever. We've even gotten better at actually running online events, coming up with substitutes for the open bracket format we normally default to, and creating genuinely competitive environments as a consequence. My favourite example of this being the Dragon Ball FighterZ National Championship. Here there are 5 different regions and 8 players in each. They play in a round robin format, so every player in the same region fights with each other in a first to 5 set. However, this is spread across multiple weeks and multiple days with scheduled matches. This format is built to add legitimacy to online. The players knew in advance their opponents, so they had time to test their connections with each other, and because it's invite only, the variables are minimized as much as possible. From a spectator point of view as well, it's perfect. Because it's multiple weeks, it gets enough breathing room to build a really good narrative. And then because it's all scheduled, you get to pick and choose what matches you want to tune into. Then, on top of all of this, you have Tyrant, a commentator of the event, doing recaps each week with guests who are actually competing in it. All of this effectively building to a playoff in December where the champion of each region will be crowned. It's just good storytelling and an interesting take on the World Tour format we've seen so many times. Some of these ideas and formats have existed for a while, but this pandemic has given people the ability to get creative just due to the low investment cost. The team required to make things work is still there, but it's smaller, and the venue fees are just not a thing. The result, considering the circumstances, has frankly been amazing. It's still online though, obviously. I mean, I feel like sometimes people forget that and get pissed off that an online tournament is actually being played online, but I get it. We all want our game to have a better netcode to make this experience better. That being said, quite a few developers, community members and third parties have stepped up to achieving this during lockdown. On the community side, we have Guilty Gear AC+R, where a group of people added GGPO into this title. This actually got picked up by Arxis and is being added to the Steam version. A similar thing happened with King of Fighters 2002 Unlimited Match and the team at Code Mystics. It's absolutely incredible that people are able to do this, and it's actually receiving the deserved support from the developers. I really hope someone's getting paid for it. Then we have Slippy, which honestly I don't think I have time to go into the detail of all the things this program can do, but it's added rollback to Smash Bros. Melee, a 2001 GameCube title which I don't think anyone thought would ever happen, and the side effects it's had on the community are pretty much immeasurable. Plus, Nintendo hasn't sent anyone a cease and desist letter yet, which for them is pretty impressive. Developers are doing it too. We've got Guilty Gear Strive, Flexel and possibly even Under Night In-Birth, all including a rollback netcode. You can't pin this all on the pandemic because some of these have been in the works before it, but I think it's safe to say it's been a contributing push in the right direction. So yes, lockdown has been terrible for fighters, way worse than other genres who are used to a majority online existence, but what we've come out of this with is the tools and formats necessary to make online play a viable platform in the future, and that benefits everyone.